For 8 months, I asked myself what I wanted my first topic to focus on was going to be, as that choice was definitely going to decide a future that I may or may not even want. I've been told over the course of my career that presenting something I'm truly interested in should set the bar and should also invite a bunch of people in to feel what I got to say. So I want to talk to you about Tekken and why all black people can play it well.
We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment.
For a while now, I've been seeing the same memes and jokes throughout the FGC about this inherent built-in activation code for any black kid to pick up a controller, see Tekken on the screen, and instantly have an understanding of the game that other people just seem to not have or can't have. And it spawns a bunch of offshoot conversations, South Park, black people can all play bass, blah, blah, blah. And I preface this with the following. I will skip some of the reasons behind why some of the conclusions I have are just automatically made, because it would require so much backstory on culture, and well, I need to give you some reason to come back here or angrily type a comment for the algo gods, or hit the like, the subscribe. Chapter 1. I remember being younger and seeing Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the first time. And I can't tell you how, for a kid who didn't have cable growing up, finally seeing what everybody was talking about at school with Goku and did you see Toonami last night? No, they fighting Frieza and all that. Word Art Online, Ghost in the Shell, never heard of none of this stuff. But I did know that I could play video games very well. I didn't know why I had an aptitude for it. I ended up finding out it's ADHD, and I love to have my brain processing 500 things a minute on the screen. But what really got me is that I didn't recognize it at the time. But a lot of us were at these after-school centers. That's where I finally saw Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the first time, at an after-school center. And for some reason, I felt indebted to that experience, not because I was seeing, the Warp Kamehameha for the first time and learning the button combos and fighting other people and playing a video game with other people. It's because there wasn't a barrier to entry to that experience. I would have only had that experience at that place and that time, based on where I lived, of course. And there was a core reason why all those other kids were with me. Instead of, the kids out in the park or whatever, blah, 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 there's a reason why we was all in that room. And that's because of poverty. Now, if you want to say everybody said that, hear me out. We already know that water cooler conversation had really nothing to do with anything outside of pop culture. So anything that wasn't promoted as hard or was less regulated automatically means things like underground games get more and more popular as they hit the greatest hits re-releases. And for those of you who don't know, greatest hits was a telling that Sony or the developer had stopped really caring about the game. It wasn't selling as well, or it was done off the main market. So those were the discount games. And I remember Dragon Ball Z Budokai being a greatest hits. I remember the greatest hits version. And while other multiplayer games would still be in their infancy, approaching the online connection and having lobbies and other people to play with, you know that feeling that I'm about to discuss with you. You definitely know that feeling that I'm about to discuss with you. Late night on a 9 p.m. on a Friday, you've invited 3 friends over and boom, we're playing GoldenEye. That LAN formation, you gotta remember, it was very hard to even find a space for if you were in a poorer neighborhood, it was hard to find a space where you could get a couple computers in to play CSGO. I still remember one of my friends, what was his name? Cameron. I remember Cameron had put on Descent. I don't know if anybody's ever played that PC game before, Descent. But Descent, the be in a group and cheer on a winner and see people getting hyped for competition, and you're watching someone overcome the odds of beating a tough opponent. Way better than watching someone play a game, a single player game, go ooh and ah and wait for that person to die so it could be your turn. Fighting games were the perfect way for any group of kids to gather together and immediately be in competition with each other, where mashing buttons makes you do cool kicks, punches, and other moves. And so, while there were plenty of fighting games out there, what made Tekken so much more accessible, cooler than other fighting games? That's the neat part. It wasn't. I ended up finding out that Tekken would sell over 12 million copies by the end of the cycle of Tekken 4, And I wasn't even gonna do research on this video at this specific part because I wanted to speak more from personal experience. The original Street Fighter alone sold 20 million copies, and that's a split between just Japan and worldwide within that same time period. And we haven't even gotten on to other games like single player experiences like Mario, multiplayer experiences like Mario, single player experiences like Pokemon, single player and multiplayer experiences like Pokemon. Everything about how kids got put into these situations rarely escaped without like bullying and teasing. The expectation in group settings. You don't understand what I'm trying to put forth to you here. Back then, if you found your way into playing a video game with a group of people around you, it was like hood anime culture. Getting your ass whooped in a video game was just about as embarrassing as the next day as getting your ass whooped. You wouldn't have no marks on your face, no cookies, no none of that. If you was talking shit, don't let them catch you talking shit, because you're gonna get that fraud alert stamped right on your head. And it's not even just the structure of the games and how certain things like comeback mechanics weren't even an actual thing at the time of the original Tekken, which means if you own these games, you were already on another level, and that created a hierarchy inside of an already small-knit group, coupled with the excitement most poor kids get when they get to play a game for the first time for free with controller and opponent and crowd at no extra cost. I swear, if this were EA, it'd be prime for some sort of DLC extra expansion, atmosphere, whatever. The point is, quickly taking a glance at pivotal points in growth for different kinds of people becomes both a zero-sum game to either adapt to capitalism and the worth on a leaderboard in the multiple aspects of what you love and you hate, and a catch-all for ending up being the exact same point in time. Ending up at the exact same point in time with two completely different outlooks on some of the most simplest joys life has to offer. And the more you dive into things like Evo, Chinatown Fair, NorCal, or simply the nights you spent with your friends in front of a TV, I'm gonna be honest here, I didn't get much of that home experience. My dad was super paranoid about me enjoying other people's houses, and that whole thing is in another video. If I'm smart, I'll put a thumbnail about that somewhere that you can click. Anyway, that culture creates a convincing narrative to some kids that how their friends treat them when playing those games and being a sore loser or winner is how people treat this in the real world. This is how people get treated in the real world. Because no representation of proper relationships and the dynamic flow of exchange of desires amongst kids who are already lacking in other proper vehicles to gain those experiences in a way that was transformative and not just passing fosters exactly what you see today. Evil, scummy people who prey on the missing needs of lonely people who feel unfulfilled just because the self-understanding they have a possibility of achieving is already there. They just don't have the key to unlock that door within themselves and are forced by years and years and years of repetition to give up on that door and burn down the house so you can make a living wage and achieve a model dream that means absolutely jack shit for you in the grave. Tekken just did it better than everyone else. The idea of infinite stages not being confined into a corner, the stun mechanic not being perfect, a more diverse roster than ever before. Everyone seemed broken. Laws were put in place that like, oh man, if you hit me in a stun, I'm beating the shit out of you, I'm shooting you. My point is, while there was a reward for standing on your own 2 feet in games like King of Fighters, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat, Tekken didn't have such a strong standing in the States as early as, say, the South Korean fighting game community. And now you have this extreme sub-niche of people who know how to do a Korean backdash, and it literally not applying to any other game, except that one we don't talk about. The community building structure allowed a lot of people who didn't get that community from their household, from their school experience, maybe their neighborhood, they were the poorest kid, and I'm the only black kid in a school. Fighting games created those tight-knit communities where individuals from specifically minority backgrounds could connect because it required a time and investment that, honestly, to say to you, most rich kids or well-off kids had too many games to play, too many things to do. They weren't worried about what we were doing. So Smash grows bigger. Now you can have 4 players and put everybody in front of a TV and just have some fun for once. Those shared experiences, those lasting friendships, create a dynamic in which I'm allowed to see with my own eyes what family looks like. But because there's no structure within that community, and that's not a fault of the community, many communities don't have this, if not all sub-niche genre communities don't have like rules on family building. If you don't have a reinforcement or a guide, or I should say a railing guide, to help you kind of navigate the feelings that you will experience, you grow into a different person who can, and I will repeat this again, meet at the exact same point in time as somebody else with two way different lives. Rarely does this happen in a JP Morgan Chase bank meeting. Tekken had the ability to connect a lot of people to the idea of a bigger and bigger world within just gaming alone. It was subtle enough, popular enough, cool looking enough that it gave everybody kind of what they were missing from the other fighting games of the time. A lot of people really didn't like they liked the idea of the 2D sprites and everything. They wanted something a little more depth. When we talk about community building, we also have to include places where communities can be built. This is why I brought up earlier after school centers or places of congregation for teenagers. We know in today's day and age there aren't that many places left where kids even want to hang out, and why should they? They can hop on their VR headsets and go meet all of their friends in VR chat. The loss of in-person communication between kids builds directly into the point I'm trying to tell you. Communities are formed over the same things with different bonds and different responsibilities. I'm not worried about my child coming home late from school because I know he's here, there, and there. She's here, there, and there, and there. These experiences are then led by adults or caretakers who might have their own opinions on the world. When you're talking about such a sensitive situation, such as a bunch of broken kids all trying to be led by one or two camp counselors, and they have to provide an experience and make sure you have food and everything. Every single moment you spend with those people that you bonded over this specific thing over, for Black kids, this felt like one of the only things we could do. There was a whole methodology to why Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't as popular as it is now, or wasn't as popular back then, and it was the cost of cards. Things started to get expensive when more and more pieces started getting dropped, more and more archetypes started getting dropped. Support started to go on a cycle. It wasn't just a collection of cards and we were all just dealing with the same cards and trying to create new strategies. When I speak about community, I want to speak from the heart for a little bit as well. I think that a lot of us take the communities that we're a part of now for granted because it's easy to open up a Discord and invite 20 friends into it and say, hey, I have something really cool I want to discuss with you guys. Do you want to chat about it? Do you want to bond over this? Even that has been commercialized. And I was going to stay away from commercialization in this video essay because I felt like that was very, very pedantic of me, but here we are. The idea that cosmetics and benefits can make anything look better in a digital space is ridiculous to me as a concept, to be honest. Especially knowing that growing up, DLC wasn't as strong as it was now. And I come from a generation that's used to getting that disc and that's all you got. It was rare, super rare, that a patch would ever come in. And if you needed one and you were on a certain system that couldn't connect to the internet, good luck. You were gonna have to buy the re-release version, the greatest hits version with fixed scope. They were gonna have to re-release something. Communities that are based around things that you wish you could participate in at home. As cool as Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, you can't play that by yourself. I mean, now you can. But back then, it would have been a dream to have an emulator with all those cards. You had one of two choices. You either went out and bought yourself a real deck and went and go find some real people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With, or you buy a GBA Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Duelist Soul, or World Championship 2002 or 2003, and you play that. There's a thing about why the link cable was such a popular accessory. It opened up another world And fighting games in general opened up that world to a lot of people that didn't have the ability to pay for an internet bill at that time, afford a computer, a personal home computer. Yeah, okay. All right, we give ourselves not enough grace when we realize that there are even 10 people who would sit there and listen to you every day talk about what you care about, because that type of community barely exists in the real world now, because inflation, jobs, bills, everything's fucked up, coronavirus. I mean, we've all been living this life. We're just older now, and we still have a retrospect about how things were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We can still see the things that we loved and we experienced on the internet right now. But we have a different set of responsibilities now every time that we wake up, and we feel like there's a disconnect between that. And that is because of the community that you are missing. You don't get the same reward from the same people around you. You could have 20,000 people watching your videos, you could have 20,000 people watching you live. It's still you alone in that room. So we've changed what community means, and if we change what community means, that means we've changed what family means. And if we've changed what family means, that means we've changed what friendship means. And if we change what friendship means, that means we've changed what love means. Which leads me to chapter 3, inclusivity and cultural appreciation. Many fighting games, as we know, feature diverse characters which can provide representation and a sense of belonging to players from minority communities. I really want to tune into Injustice for a second, because we're talking about Tekken, so I need to make sure you're on board with me for every direction we go in. Injustice is cool. They're also comic book characters that I've grown up with for such a long time that seeing them fight each other in a fighting game where I can see frame data and actuate and accentuate every move I do, I'm not really watching Superman fight the Flash. I'm watching two fighting game players play. While Street Fighter has done this extremely well in the past, and Mortal Kombat has its own universe, so it's unfair to really compare anything in that universe to what the main point of what I'm speaking on is, it's still important to mention Tekken's diversity. And not only stories, but approach to those stories. They felt very fleshed out. There's this main big narrative, but everybody else's narratives feel like they at least attached to it. It felt like I was kind of going through a story and not just a flow of characters beating all the other 8 characters and then something happens at the end. I'm looking at you, Marvel vs. Capcom. Inclusivity. While you can see the most racist person ever say, all they do is make it about race now. We used to all love Goku. Nobody cared if Goku was black or not. This inclusivity within fighting game culture forced me to ask questions about other cultures and other places that I honestly, even though I was growing up within a pretty multicultural school, was more of an eye-opening experience than I was willing to admit at the time, especially as a young kid growing up in the hood. Different celebrations, different outfits, different ways of speaking, different English accents, different languages, cultures, traditions, and norms. Fighting games offered an experience into a world that really represented the world that we were a part of. And that's why I brought up Injustice earlier, because that goes into the escapism route. It's cool that fighting games can bring people together. I just think Tekken does it best. And that cultural appreciation. When you bring up something that you've seen before, I still remember in 7th grade, I remember thinking that Selena was a movie. And yes, I know I'm making a pop culture reference to something that's gonna take place very, very soon if it hasn't already taken place, but that's why you like me. The incorporations of different cultures were reflected in the move sets. And because Tekken had a very specific move style, where each of your limbs are controlled by a button, really felt like this was the one game that landed me on, shit, that's me! And as we start looking at these things more and more, and we build upon them, we don't even realize that our understanding of other people might come from these video games. And I don't think anybody's looking at Cloud Hisaki and thinking, oh, I'm just like Cloud, I went through the same struggle. But, and I'm really sorry for this one, you probably know what it's like to feel like Kazuya not getting liked and fucking hated by your father or your parents, right? Sue me, sue me. In writing this essay, this very small essay, I had a thought in my head about how I was going to continue this on as a big thought and speak more about the incorporation of Tekken's story and Tekken's ability to really connect with a large audience and keep itself relevant. Even in its darkest times, I always remember, yo, I'm gonna download that Tekken game. I remember Tekken 4. Tekken 4 was awesome. I want to talk to you about one last thing because I think that it cements my point quicker than the hour-long essay that I had here. I want to talk to you about accessibility and affordability. On the accessibility side, fighting games are more often accessible than other genres of video games. They're just there. They don't have a yearly update. They're not COD. You're not waiting for the next drop. Usually you get a game, and even as I'm thinking about this, I just keep hearing in my head, Street Fighter 4, Ultimate Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 4 AE Edition, Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, Street Fighter 4 AE 2012. Their control schemes and difficulty levels are generally locked into what the opponent can and cannot do. It is one of the few games where you can say, yo, I'm really fighting a facsimile of myself. Oh, I got caught with that low. I gotta get better at low parrying. I gotta get better at fighting. The control schemes are easy to learn, but difficult to master. And I love saying that because that is the application of most popular games today, including your favorite Bourne series. Elden Ring's getting a new DLC and everybody can't wait. While people are talking about the multiplayer experience of it, most people are talking about, oh, what new bosses are there gonna be? What new paths can I traverse? Resident Evil is cool, but what is it teaching you about life? Survive and save each bullet, everything counts, peek through every door. Fighting games told you how to survive on your own. When you get your ass beat, what you supposed to do? Fight back! When you are living in poverty and you barely have experience with anything other than maybe a couple of arcade games, you know, off that really, really bad emulator that your parents bought you for Christmas that one year, where all the games are on the main screen and they're all in blue and yellow text, and when you click them, they're pretty much all the same game, or they're a collection of like 1,001 games, and it's all just like fake Mario reboots. The accessibility of learning these games is why all black kids can play them, because they're all the same in one form or another. And that was the majority popular experience that all of us had. We weren't sitting in a room watching one person play a video game and being like, oh, that's cool. We didn't have games at home, most of us, to play. There was always one kid with a GameCube and one kid with Super Smash Bros. Bring your own controllers. Oh, I got two at home. I could bring them for y'all, because we know mad people don't have controllers. The accessibility made us hone in on those games, because oh yeah, I would love to play Tekken every day, but if I'm never allowed to go outside because my dad's mad mean to me, I'm not going to sit there and play a one-player game by myself to practice. Now I have a reason to. I don't have that same reasoning if I'm playing Zelda. Oh, I got really good at Zelda, I know how to do the hops and everything. Who cares? We on Smash, bro. Now you could say this could matter for all multiplayer games, but let's be honest here yet again. GoldenEye really rocked on the split screen. Call of Duty Zombies on a split screen, really dope. Today's audience, I don't think you'd want to play Warzone 4-player on a split screen. You all want your own keyboards and monitors and setups. And why should I go all the way over to your house to play with you? I could literally pop on right now. By the time it takes for me to drive to your house, we could have already played 2 games. So what do you do when you hang out with one another? You chill, you smoke weed, you talk. Can you see why accessibility matters? Perhaps even more now, can you see why all black kids play Tekken? I really want to stress this because I think I haven't stressed it enough during this video essay. We are all creatures of habit, born from our darkest inhibitions and our deepest joys. Our fears, loves are all put on display every time we wake up. Whether you're alone or you're about to be president of the United States of America, everybody remembers the time they got their heart broken. If these pivotal moments are so important that we're supposed to register and recollect them at every single point, then I ask you, how could you not expect minority children to be good at video games? We weren't out there skiing. Some of us became skateboarders, but even those people I knew was good at video games, fighting games in particular. Different than NBA Street Volume 2, different than any 2K game at the time. It felt like head-to-head competition forced us into understanding who we were, even if we weren't ready to do it at age 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22. It's constantly checking your patience and your values. If I play a meta deck in Yu-Gi-Oh!, that's because I think that's what I need to do in order to learn the game and see what other people are doing. I play a meta character in Tekken, that's specifically because I want to win. What if that character aligns with you discovering who you are? Wow, I really like that character, but they're extremely hard to execute all their moves with. I at least have a good base part to start from, though. Because the barriers of entry were so low and the skills were applicable across multiple titles, it was very easy for minority children to get into gaming, and let alone find a community where they feel welcome, because it's usually not about where you come from, how much money you got. It's, do you have a controller and are you ready to get your fade run? That accessibility inside of that community is unparalleled. Because, and to be honest with you, you could be really good at speedrunning games, but you're not gonna make a career out of it building a community around anybody but yourself, because the target of that is your skill. Fighting games give you the ability to enjoy everyone's skill. It's all reality. I remember watching this video by Eye Patch Wolf, the unreality of pro wrestling and how much we attach victories of other people and other things. We see ourselves in them and we want to root so badly for them. Even though we know wrestling is predetermined, doesn't matter. We still feel the story. It injects us with a certain purpose and understanding of how the world is supposed to work. Do heroes win at the end? Is it our real life David and Goliath situation? Somebody's got to conquer somebody. I've been waiting to see it. Fighting games gave you that from jump. Affordability is where we will end this experiment. Many fighting games are more affordable than other types of video games, especially when compared to the cost of gaming PCs or other consoles. This affordability has made it easier for Black children from lower income backgrounds to participate in gaming and be a part of the FGC. AAA titles be selling for $59.99 for 2 months. That Tekken was definitely going to hit that shelf. You didn't need the game to enjoy the game. Nowadays, depending on how you do things, everybody across the board has a copy of the game that you're playing together. Gran Turismo at your friend's house is fun, but when you get back home, I don't got no racing games. How do I practice driving, hitting the corners, the apexes? Oh, once I went over to my friend's house and I played Tekken, I went back home and I played Street Fighter. The games are different, but the movement and the paying attention to affordability. One of the first few genres that didn't require somebody to have a home copy in order to have the full experience. Just like wrestling games, we can include those as well. Like I said, it's cool to watch somebody play Ratchet and Clank, and then when they lose all their health and they got a game over screen, here, take the controller, you could try it. But once you get back home, that platforming experience don't translate to nothing. I'm better at platformers. Okay, you're better at single player games. Go buy all those and play by yourself. The affordability of games, specifically fighting games, not releasing every year. You know, there was a Gran Turismo 1, then 2, then 3, then A-Spec, then 4, then 5, then 6, then Sport, then 7, and then all little offshoots. Project Gotham Racing, Dead or Alive 4, Arena Fighters. So many games that we barely even consider the price as a barrier. Somebody will find a way to get it. Somebody will borrow it from somebody. This is why I love talking about Tekken. I was concerned that when I made this essay, I was going to go into a diatribe about some absolute wonky crap to make everybody feel good and to discuss as I said in the title of the video, the dialectics of Tekken and Black kids. But here's the answer to your question. Being able to express yourself with, oh, I caught you in the grab, being able to do different things, being able to explore different worlds. I feel like the competition aspect of fighting games gave Black kids something to fight for that wasn't their own identity. It's cool to be Goku. It is not cool to Naruto run down a hallway. It's cool to be Steve Fox. It get real dangerous when you take up boxing as an actual hobby. It didn't take a lot for a fighting game to be exciting. And this is just my experience. It didn't take a lot. because I knew that I was around a bunch of people who weren't gonna play this, who had seen this for the first time. Yo, that's the PS2. Yo, he got a PS2. Every single little layer of what we have built here today all comes back to those experiences. Did you watch your friend play Game Boy Color and get really, really envious when they were playing Pokemon Crystal? We think it doesn't exist because we tell ourselves these things don't exist, because that makes us feel comfortable. And that comfortability is something that I've recognized is why all black people can play Tekken. Because if you get asked, you see a table, yo, you want to play? When am I going to say no to that? I might say no to, yo, you want to do this alien railgun shoot 'em up? You want to play Dance Dance Revolution? I don't got no rhythm. But Tekken, for black kids, kind of felt like home. Sure, some people might say it was more Smash than anything, but that's something for you to argue in the comments down below. The paradigm shift. Catch you in the next one. Hey, thanks for liking the video. Please do me a favor, follow, subscribe, like, hello. I've got some stuff down in the description below that you should check out, including my live Twitch stream, which is where I recorded this. If you'd like to be a part of seeing it raw and unfiltered, you too can join the Twitch stream. Just hit the follow button. The link is down in the description below. I wish I had merch to sell you or some way to get money, but if you want to help out, I have a tip page on my Twitch channel. I guess maybe I should link that too, maybe directly. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, who knows by the time this is uploaded. But if you made it to this part of the video, I just want to say thank you for checking this out. I was really nervous putting out my first video because I felt like my scripts had to be long and in-depth and planned, and you know, I have to have all my cuts and words out and just keep typing and typing and typing until I'm done talking. And then I realized like the natural approach that I've been doing for so long was probably good enough. And it's because of viewers like you that stay all the way through the video that I was able to do something like this. So if you want to see it again, comment 12 or something. Comment a number, just a number. You could put it before your actual words or whatever. Just comment a number and I'll know you made it to this part. All right, bye.